Hey y'all, this is Chris with the Flying Hens. Thank you for joining me today. I have a question for you. What do you see that's different about our rig than the typical camping situation? We've been here for 4 days camping. If you were to say you're not hooked up to anything, you're correct. We're boondocking. We love to boondock. It takes us out into beautiful locations, gets us a little bit more space away from neighbors. We love people, but we love our space while camping too. And I have a question. Have you ever found yourself saying, what is boondocking? Can I do it? Can my rig do it? How can I set myself up in the best way to go boondocking? Where do I find great boondocking sites or any other things about boondocking? Well, you found the right place because I'm going to help you out there. Over the next few months, we're going to put out a series of boondocking videos that deal with electrical, solar, waste and water. What the heck is boondocking? Where do you find it? And so we're going to go inside and we're just going to start with the first one. What is boondocking? So follow me. Boondocking. Wild camping, primitive camping, dispersed camping, dry camping, whatever you want to call it. It's basically going out and camping without any hookups. So you are just like a tent camper, except in an RV you've got a few extra amenities that, well, make it a little bit easier, a little more simple. Purists to boondocking will argue that it's pretty much going out into the middle of nowhere, out into the boondocks, where you don't even have a neighbor around you. Which, I mean, in its basic form, that's what boondocking is. However, it has been adapted into other versions where, it's any time you're just camping without hookups. The nice thing about it is it's usually relatively free or inexpensive because you don't have those hookups. So wherever you're camping either has no fees because they don't have to pay for that, or you're using public land. That's primarily where a lot of boondocking takes place, is out in national forests, BLM land, water management and wildlife management areas. There's national grasslands out there that you can go and park and camp on. Some state parks are allow you to go into some dispersed camping areas and boondock. So that's basically an overview, very generally, of what boondocking is. Now, how do we find it? Well, we're going to choose a place like Arches National Park. I want to go there. So we're going to go to a website called campendium.com. That's what I usually do to start things out. And when you go to Campendium and you type in Arches National Park, you can put it right there on the screen. And it'll pop up the little map section of where you are. And then you can filter by cost. You can filter by rig size. You can filter by amenities, hookups, not hookups, like all those sorts of things. But since we're focused more on boondocking, you typically don't have hookups. So let's just focus on cost. You can just slide the little slider over to free and see what pops up. You can also do rig size. However, the problem with doing it by rig size is that's going to be based on what users have put in their profile as the size of their rig. So if they're a 25-foot travel trailer and you've got a 40-foot fifth wheel toy hauler, then it's not going to bring up as the largest rig that's gone there as a 25-foot toy hauler or 40-foot toy hauler. It'll say it's a 25-foot travel trailer. However, that person might have put in their review, this thing is accessible by any size RV, and that would have been a nice clue to have. So I usually leave that out and just start reading reviews. So you click on some reviews and you read through them, and you can see great things, whether it's big rig accessible, the openness for solar, the reception, and how easy the roads are to access the spot. Are they bumpy? Campendium gives a great overview of a spot. Then I will go to Google and go to the Google Maps to search the area and look at the satellite view to really see what it looks like. Can I actually make these turns? I trust everybody on Campendium, but I'd like to see it for myself. So are there really like open fields where I can park and utilize my solar that I have on the rig? Or am I going to have to rely on a generator because it's all wooded area? Nice things to look at. So that's where I'm going to start. There are other places to look, like Harvest Host, Boondockers Welcome, the Dirt app, freecampsites.net, a number of places out there you can go to find information on campsites, especially free ones. But like Harvest Host and Boondockers Welcome, those are great, I think, for like when you're traveling long distances and you need a quick stopover, because Harvest Host is only a one night thing, and Boondockers Welcome can be anywhere from like 1 to 5 nights depending on the host. But those are some great spots to stop. We've had great overnights there. And also, don't overestimate the power of a good Google search. Just go in and type in boondocking or free camping near Arches National Park. We found a number of places that way, and then we're like, oh, and we've checked Campendium, and they're not even on Campendium, or they're not on some of the other places. They're just kind of, local knowledge. So that's kind of how to go find a lot of the places that we've stayed at. So we've talked about kind of what boondocking is. We've talked about how to find a good boondocking location. Now, what do you need to go out there and boondock successfully? Well, you need a water source, an electrical source, a waste solution, and a toilet. Well, luckily RVs kind of have a lot of those taken care of. And since we're talking about this from an RV perspective, you have water, like freshwater tanks. You've got a waste solution, which would be your gray and your black tanks. You've got toilets. The only thing that it really doesn't necessarily have are an electrical source. You do have batteries on all RVs, but how are you going to charge those batteries? The biggest battery bank on an RV doesn't matter if you've got nothing to charge it. So some RVs have built-in generators, some don't. So you can buy a portable generator and plug into it like shore power, or you can do solar. The common misconception about solar is it doesn't run your electrical system. It charges your batteries. So I get the question a lot. Can you run your ACs, or can you run your appliance from solar? And the answer is like, no, not technically, but yes, because the batteries always provide the power to the RV, whether it be lights or appliances or air conditioners, if you've got ways to run that, like inverters we'll talk about in a second. But the solar recharges the batteries. That's their primary job. So that's what they do. They feed into the batteries, and then the batteries supply the power out. So if you've got a fully charged battery bank, you basically are taking power right out and feeding it again with the solar. So you're kind of, in essence, running your rig on solar at that point. But that's not how it technically works. So if you've got a large enough system, once your batteries are recharged and you've got 3,000 watts of solar on the roof like we do, yes, I can run an AC using solar power without discharging my batteries. So that kind of answers that question. So solar is great because it's silent. It has no cost of operation once you have it installed. But there are some downsides. I mean, obviously it doesn't work at nighttime. Cloudy days make solar inefficient and doesn't charge as well. There's a large investment cost into solar in the very beginning, depending on how big of a system you create. And because, you're limited on size of kind of the wattage of panels that you can add to your RV, it charges slower than a generator possibly could. Now, a generator, though, it's cheaper. You can turn it on whenever you want at nighttime if you need to. So the the convenience of a generator is nice, and you can get large generators like 3,500 watt generators to recharge your batteries quickly, which solar can't necessarily do unless you have a lot of real estate on your roof for panels. But the downside to generators, they're loud. I mean, they're noisy. So if you've got some neighbors, you might bug them. So you could be a nuisance, because a lot of people go out to boondock to get away from noise, to get into nature and do that sort of thing. But if you need power, you need power. So you can run a generator minimally. Also, you'll notice that when you are out without any hookups, you may not be running all your electrical items in your RV. Your lights will work, your fridge might work, it might not. The USB plugs work, but when you go to plug your cell phone into the outlet, it doesn't charge. You're like, why not? Well, that's because batteries put out DC power, direct current. So it's directly supplying a constant stream in one direction of electrical current. And some items, like all the outlets and receptacles in your house, in your RV, and some of the appliances like your air conditioners, run off of AC power. That's alternating current. So it's actually alternating the direction of current flow, and batteries don't do that. So you need to invert with an inverter DC power from your battery to AC power. So if you don't have an inverter, you cannot run any of those alternating current items unless you are plugged into a generator. But you can install an inverter, and that will take care of the problem if you want to just directly plug into the inverter. A lot of times they have an outlet on there, or you can wire them in so that they might run certain outlets in your RV, or you can run it directly to an air conditioner if you need that. But it depends on how you want to wire up that inverter. So to use AC appliances, like your coffee maker in the morning, if you really need coffee and you're not doing a pour over or something of that nature, you need a generator, or you need an inverter running some of the outlets in your rig. So that takes care of the electrical items of boondocking. And from a general perspective, let's think about water and waste. I mean, obviously at some point you might fill up your waste tanks, your gray tanks, your black tanks, or you might run out of water in your fresh tank. So there are ways to do that. There are portable water bladders that you can buy, or use 5-gallon jugs. It's what a lot of people do. And you can use those and use a 12-volt pump or gravity, fill them into your freshwater tank, and just keep refilling your fresh water that way. Your waste tanks, though, you can use a portable waste tank, kind of like a Rhino waste tank, that you can dump into that and then transport that to an RV dump site and dump your black or gray tank. There are a lot of RVs out there that have bigger black tanks or bigger gray tanks that make boondocking easier. But from a general perspective, you either have to move your rig or, use a portable tank system to dump your tanks. So that kind of covers what you need in an RV in order to go boondock. So you've researched your spot. You've now show up and you arrive and find an open spot. Might be other boondockers around. Give them a little space. We all like to go out to boondock in order to get away from our neighbors. Not that we're not friendly. We would love to hang out with people. But when we're camping, we just kind of want some space. That's why we don't go to campgrounds as much. If we want to be on top of our neighbor, we'll go to the KOA. The next thing you want to do is take advantage of the location. Like, you probably have a good view somewhere. Like, park in a way that gives you a beautiful view out the window. However, be mindful of the other people around you. They were there first. Like, don't block their view. But some places it's kind of hard not to park close by because they're popular. They have limited space. If you want to be courteous and kind, give them a question. Hey, like, you mind if I park here? Like, is that going to bother you too much? 9 times out of 10, they're probably going to say, no, that's fine. Go ahead. We all want to be able to enjoy it out there. So you've parked. You have leveled your rig. Now it's time to set everything up. Oh wait, you're done. There's no sewer hose. There's no electrical shoreline to plug in. There's no water line to plug in. There's no cable to plug in. You're done. You're set up. And guess what? When it's time to hook up and leave, it's the same thing. You just hook up and leave because there's nothing to break down. There's no tanks to empty. There's nothing like that. So, nice little perk and bonus to boondocking. Okay, so now you're all set up in record time. What do you do now? Conserve, conserve, and conserve. Like, conservation is key when you're out boondocking. You obviously don't want to fill up your tanks quickly. You don't want to run out of water, and you don't want to deplete your battery having to run the generator all the time. So when it comes to electric, like, only use lights that you need. Turn off lights when you leave the room. When you're done using them, try to open the windows and use the outdoor light as much as you can. Same thing when it comes to the heat. Don't run your ACs all the time with your generator going all day long. Open up the windows. Take advantage of the wind. Also, the little aluminum reflective material, you can put that in your windows to help block heat. You can park in shady areas if you're not actually using solar to help keep the heat down. But water conservation, like, wash dishes with a trickle of water and turn it off while you're soaping up and scrubbing and stuff like that. You should be able to do an entire load of dishes with maybe a gallon or two of water. Military style showers, like, turn the water on, get under, turn it off, lather up while you're, with the water off, then do a quick rinse off, and that's it. Shower with 2 to 3 gallons of water. That way you're not running out of water, you're not filling up tanks, but, we talked about earlier the bladders and the portable waste tanks that can help you when you're out boondocking to really extend your time there. But otherwise, one more thing I do want to kind of point out is generator usage. If you do opt the generator route, and that's totally fine, use a generator during the day. It's usually louder during the day anyways, so the generator is kind of drowned out as much. Nobody wants a generator running at 3 o'clock in the morning. If you're a neighbor. I mean, if it doesn't bother you, that's fine, but your neighbors might have an issue. So a good technique is, hey, at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, flip the generator on, run it for an hour to top off the batteries. But by dark, get the generator turned off, and then you just run on battery power for the rest of the night. And then in the morning, flip on the generator, run your coffee, and get your batteries that were depleted overnight charged back up. So just be courteous as much as you can. There's also a lot of boondocking places have limits on when you can run your generator. So, of course, observe quiet hours the best you can. Lastly, this is a very basic overview of boondocking. I'm going to put out more of a series that's going to cover in depth on solar and electrical and water and waste systems and how to, really kind of go a little more advanced in that stuff in future videos. If you have any questions, comment those below. I would love to get a list of things together to maybe do a more in-depth like Q&A video as well about boondocking. And hey, if you enjoyed this, you picked up some tips here and there, please like the video, subscribe to our channel so that you can have more tips on RVing and travel in general, and just follow along with our adventures. Thank you very much. See you on the next video.